Hello everyone, today we're going to make a reaction to Geography Now Switzerland. And Switzerland is a rich country and neutrality. And I want originally should now start the video, and I was going to also about to say that
Alps, cheese, neutrality,
they
and
make good
well,
cheese,
Switzerland didn't
make
start
good
off that great. It was basically a bunch of mountain folk that built the
chocolate,
entire
and it's
continent
about
off
to
of what are
say
essentially European
the
neighbors.
countries are neutral
Now,
with,
they have a
for
bunch of
example,
bombers who try to
Russia,
visit
Ukraine,
nuclear war
Montenegro are
happens,
the
but
only
we'll get into
European
that later. In
countries
the
are
meantime,
neutral,
here's the intro
which
song.
means I can react to it, but doesn't mean I have to say positive or negative. Okay, let's learn about Switzerland.
Not selling out
Alright
the
then.
brand. In any case,
Alright
Switzerland, the crossroads of the Germanic and Latin worlds, known as the Confederation Helvetica, despite not actually being a
CH is also
confederation,
used
named
on
after
YouTube.
the Helvetii tribe, which were actually Celtic.
Alright then.
We should hang
We
out
have
sometime.
Ireland.
That were mostly wiped out and driven away by the Latins and Germanic peoples.
Oh, well, okay.
But
Alright then.
anyway, so I actually promised my Swiss friend Herman that he could be in this episode with me, and I wanted to fly him out here to Los Angeles to co-host. Unfortunately, at the time of filming this episode,
I'm not
the
sure if
US
I can
had
do the United
restrictions on
States.
Europeans entering our country,
Alright
and
then.
the actual date of acceptance for Europeans to enter would take way too long. So I decided if I
Alright
can't
then.
fly him out here, why don't I just fly out there and make a makeshift Geography Now studio set and have him in the episode? Here I go.
Okay. Okay, might take a while, so okay, we're
Hey
here.
guys, say hi to Mr. Herman.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Switzerland. Again, I'm super short, so I gotta step on a box. What does it mean to you,
Alright.
Herman, to be Swiss?
There's of course the whole cheese and chocolate thing. For me,
Alright
to be
then.
honest, we are quite grateful. that,
Okay,
we
then
live
let's
in this
learn.
nice country, which
Alright
is just safe, stable,
Which means I
and
could
it has
try,
been like this
but
for a
the
long
countries
time.
By the way,
that
guys, this is the guy that was in my
I have
heritage
negative,
video. This
which
is
means
my
I
Swiss
will not
heritage
react
guy.
to it.
You're an expert on Switzerland, right?
Alright then.
Sure. All right, and with that, let's move on. Let's find Switzerland on the map. shall we?
Okay, let's learn about political
So Switzerland is
geography.
kind of a unique place in Europe.
Alright then,
mostly
the
because
thumbnail
look at
will
how
be the
it's
map
formed.
of
You see, most
Switzerland.
countries had a king, but Switzerland didn't.
I'm not
It was just
Swiss
a bunch
though.
of annoyed mountain
I'm not a
folk
Swiss
who didn't want
YouTuber,
to
but
align with any king and became independent.
Now, there's a lot of disagreement on exactly how Switzerland was formed. Some people say maybe it was the medieval times. Some people say it was the more modern Napoleonic Wars.
So technically, the
Alright then.
earliest form of Switzerland was after the Rütli-Schwur.
Alright then.
Uri, Schwyz, and Unterwalden agreed to have an alliance.
It was basically like,
Hey, Schwyz, how's it going?
Hey man, this army just came in and attacked me for no reason.
No, wait, me too.
Are we talking about the armies coming through without our permission?
Yes! Oh my god, so annoying.
You know what we should do? We should form
This is me then.
A confederation?
a confederation.
A
yes.
confederation.
Let's do it.
Like, let's form a confederation.
Ah.
Together?
then later it was like,
Hey, can we join, please?
Can I join
Just-
too?
Just like,
I don't speak the language, but we'd like to join.
this gives me an idea. Maybe I should expand.
the point is, Switzerland started to grow.
And today you have the Switzerland you see before you, locked away safely in
Alright
the
then.
Alps.
Let's go to the map now, shall we?
First of
Okay.
all, Switzerland is a
I
landlocked
see the-
nation located at the convergence point
I
of
should
Western,
try
Central,
Austria
and Southern Europe,
since
surrounded by 5 countries.
it's
Remember,
another
don't forget
European.
little Liechtenstein. The country
Alright
is a
then.
federal republic made up of 26
Alright then.
cantons, each with their own unique flag and
Alright
coat of
then.
arms. However, keep in mind, 6 of these cantons are considered traditional half cantons, which means they are
Alright then.
grouped into 3 pairs that share a councillor in their government. In order
Alright
to
then.
maintain a somewhat decentralized government system that keeps
Bern
cantons happy,
is the
technically, Switzerland has
capital.
no
It's not official
as stated
capital.
by their constitution, but Bern is considered the de facto capital, as it holds the House of Parliament and other federal authorities.
And
The
Zurich
country's largest city, though, would be
is
Zurich, located in the
Zurich
northeast
is
of
the
the
largest-
country. It
Zurich.
also hosts the largest and
Zurich.
busiest airport, Zurich International.
Alright,
From
I'm
there,
still
the next
speaking
largest
English,
cities
never
are
mind.
Geneva and Basel, which
Alright.
also carry respectively the second and third busiest airports as well. In fact, about 75% of the population actually lives in the North Swiss plateau, even though it only makes up about 30% of the land's surface. Speaking of which, the only ambiguous dispute they have is with Germany and Austria over the Bodensee, or Lake Constance. 3 countries have never formally established borders, and they kind of just don't say anything. In any case, Switzerland also has some other unique border anomalies. For one, by Schaffhausen, Switzerland tried to grab as much land as they could north of the Rhine River, leaving a unique layout of territory grabs that jut into Germany, and it even leaves one exclave of Germany entirely within Switzerland, Husingen am Hochrhein. Head down south to the Ticino canton, and you have the Campione d'Italia, which is basically one big casino resort. It is an exclave of Italy, completely engulfed within Switzerland, only about a half mile or less than 1 kilometer over a hill away from Italy. Finally, if you go up to Basel, you have some very weird skinny land salients that jut into France for no logical reason, like this one by the town of Rieti, which at its narrowest choke point is less than 230 feet or 70 meters wide.
Switzerland is a beautiful country. I love Switzerland.
Well-paved highways, tunnels, and train networks connect every region of Switzerland. The biggest and most proud engineering project that the country has ever gone through, though, would probably be the Gotthard Base Tunnel. It is the longest rail tunnel and deepest traffic tunnel in the world, effectively cutting through the
I have not done
connecting the
Ukraine
canton of Uri with Ticino. This tunnel has
and
heavily
Montenegro,
bolstered the efficiency of
actually.
Switzerland's freight and passenger transport, as about 11,000 people and about 70,000 tons of cargo are able to swiftly pass by daily.
Fun fact, because of Herman, me and my mom actually got to go see Liechtenstein. He drove us all the way from Zurich, all the way through Liechtenstein.
I did Liechtenstein, Germany, but I will do Austria. I'll try my best to do Austria.
In Switzerland, public transport is really good. You can get almost anywhere by train. That's the Jungfrau Jochbahn, which brings you above 3,500 meters.
But that's kind of like more of a touristy thing, right?
Yeah, that's a tour. I've never been there.
Speaking of trains, you said something about like they donate the old ones, right?
Yeah, actually trams. The trams of Zurich are going to Ukraine, and the trams from Basel are going to Belgrade.
The interesting thing is that historically, some places that are actually outside of modern-day Switzerland used to be protectorates or associates of Switzerland.
They are Mulhouse, which lies in today's France, Rottweil in Germany, Valtellina and Bormio, which today lie in Italy. Even though the Austrian state of Vorarlberg once voted to become part of Switzerland in World War I, we decided to better not take them in.
You rejected them. Now, another thing about Switzerland you have to understand is that they kind of have like two imaginary lines based off of the cultural regions. You can explain. What are they, Herman?
There's the Röschengraben, separating the French-speaking
We have French,
Switzerland from the German.
German.
And then there's the Polenta-Graben, which is between
So the
German
most
part
is
and the
German
south,
spoken
which
there.
is Italian.
Basically, one side drinks beer, the other wine. Due to their history of constantly being invaded or outside forces threatening or just generally bothering them, the Swiss have developed a culture of, let's just kind of call it heavy defensive caution.
We are neutral, but we still are prepared to defend ourselves to make it as expensive as possible for anybody to attack us.
This is why, should the event ever occur, the country is loaded with copious amounts of bunkers everywhere. Like, it's actually a law, all living units have to have a bunker or something like that, right? Yeah.
We have a lot of hidden bunkers, and if you go hiking, you will just see them, but they're nowhere on the map.
There's no exact number on how many are built, but apparently they can protect the entire population plus more, right? I think.
The question is for how long, right?
In any case, Switzerland has so many notable cool sites to see and visit. We actually filmed this part before I could audition anybody to do it, so I'll just fill this in with a dubbed voiceover. Here's
Alex.
Hey guys, I'm Alex. I'm from Geneva, Switzerland, although I'm currently in Mexico. Here's a few
I
things you
didn't
should
do
absolutely
Mexico
check
because
out
I'm
if
not
you
sure
haven't made it to
about
Switzerland. Check out the Jet d'Eau Fountain, the Cathedral Saint-Pierre, Palais des Nations, which is home of the United Nations, and the CERN Hydroglidon castles. Check out the Chateau de Chillon, the Oberhofen, Valais and Tourbillon, Chateau de Gruyère, Bunhauser, which is basically a capital. Check out the Bear Park, Kinderfessenbrunnen statue, Lauterbrunnen, that has over 70 waterfalls. The Lake Lucerne has the Lion Monument and the Chapel Bridge with 347 ski resorts covering a distance of 4,500 miles. Zermatt, Saas-Fee, St. and my personal favorite, Verbier. For more Mediterranean feels, check out the Old Town Piazzas and beautiful lakeside views of Lugano down in the south of Switzerland. Switzerland also has a bunch of museums and amusement parks, so for that, check out Aqua Park, Coneyland, Swiss Vapor Park, and the Geiger Museum, which is absolutely amazing. And if you're looking for an adrenaline rush, check out the mountain coasters, also a toboggan, as well as the Stoßbahn funicular, which is the steepest funicular in the world. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Alex.
You're always going underground for whatever reason.
Yeah, if you have a mountain in between two places, what are you going to do?
Which is actually the perfect transition into the next segment.
Physical
Of course, you cannot talk about Switzerland without talking about the mountains and nature.
Literally, the moment you say Switzerland, obviously images of like snow-capped
Physical
mountains
geography,
and
now we're
valleys and
learning
cows
it.
with cowbells, and even the iconic Matterhorn probably comes up. Although 12 people a year usually die on it, but yeah, it's still very
Let's not
beautiful.
talk about
It's a
that.
challenge.
push that
So let's
forward.
go to the map and break
Alright.
down Switzerland's land makeup.
Now, despite Switzerland being famous for the Alps and being the most mountainous country in Europe, the actual Alps only make up about 60% of the country. The remainder of the country is made up of two other geographic zones, the Swiss, or Central Plateau, which is the lowest part of the country and where most of the agriculture and livestock raising is concentrated, and the Jura Mountains in the northwest on the border with France. Of course, in the Alps you can find, shocker, the tallest peak, Dufourspitze, just on the border with Italy. No, the famous, incredibly difficult to climb Matterhorn just a few miles away is not the tallest peak. It just looks really cool. That's all. Just a skip away, you find the Aletsch Glacier, the largest glacier in the Alps, and it is a UNESCO heritage site. From the ice melt of the Alps, of course, you get the source of all the rivers that feed Switzerland, including the longest river, the Rhine, which shares borders with its neighbors. However, the longest river fully in Switzerland, not shared, would be the Aare, or Aar River. Of course, these rivers also feed into the world-renowned lakes of Switzerland, the largest one being Lake Geneva, or Lac Léman, in which Switzerland was like very set on making sure they hooked around the end with Geneva and got most of it when splitting it with France. Nonetheless, the largest lake fully in Switzerland is Neuchâtel, not to be confused with Neuchâtel in Normandy, France, which is where the soft cheese comes from.
Yeah, and those highlights
Alright
don't
then.
even cover
I
a
thought this was
fraction of all the
glitching.
cool nature stuff.
Oh,
in
pause
Switzerland.
itself. No,
You can
never
hike,
mind.
then at the end you're out of the lake. It looks perfect.
Is it like fresh enough for you to drink from, or no?
You could maybe, but the guy might have peed in it 5 minutes ago.
Okay, that's
yeah.
disgusting. But
Switzerland sure is beautiful, but
But
when it comes to
Switzerland
natural
is
resources,
good.
we're actually not so rich. We don't really have any.
Mhm.
Much of our economy is actually based on industry and services.
To explain a little bit more about the economy and industrial output, here's Noah to explain.
All right, let's
Alright
get
then.
to it. We all know high-end things like luxury Swiss watches and Swiss knives are made in Switzerland, which are, by the way, a
Excuse me.
multi-billion-dollar industry. By the way, if you're looking for a backpack, Swiss
Alright
gear
then.
is amazing. I've had one of those backpacks for probably over a decade. Great stuff.
Good backpacks, man.
But the one industry that everyone
Alright.
takes focus on, even though it only makes up about 15% of their economy, is the Swiss banking system. Home to two world-renowned companies, UBS and Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse being founded by Alfred Escher. Look him up. The appeal is that Swiss banks offer an insane amount
Alright
of
then.
privacy and confidentiality. To explain more about the bank situation, here's Swiss geography Simon.
Good day, miteinander. Hello, I am Simon and I'm actually from Switzerland.
What part of Switzerland?
Bodensee.
Whoa!
See, back in 1713, Switzerland's Great Council decided they would outlaw the financial disclosure to Europe's financial elites. In addition, all forms of bribery were pretty much criminalized. Since 1934, it was made criminal to disclose the identity of any account holders, as long as they didn't have any extreme criminal charges. Even though the interest rates are really low, sometimes the rate is even negative, which means you have to pay to hold Swiss francs or to open an account. Nonetheless, our rate of investments are pretty high, like at 2.5%. Due to the regular stability of the Swiss economy. Granted, there was some controversy, as there have been many lawsuits brought against our beautiful banks, such as the 1996 Holocaust victim class action lawsuit, which claimed that Swiss banks...
Okay, let's not talk about that.
Then again, in 2009, the US strong-armed Switzerland into, disclosing wealthy assets from 50,000 Americans. It worked, but now, Swiss banks don't accept any Americans or even Swiss people who move to America or who make a vacation in Florida. If you'd like to open an account, just contact me on Instagram and it will be totally confidential. Thank you very much. Adieu miteinander. Au revoir.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, with great banks comes great liabilities. But of course, Switzerland is more than just banks. They have thriving pharmaceutical, tech, and tourism sectors. The palate is getting dry.
Is that a Swiss bottle too?
That'd be pretty cool if it was. They take their agriculture industry very seriously. The government actually subsidizes 70% of farms. I mean, how can you say no to the wonderful dairy provided by Swiss cows? To explain more about the animal situation, here is Gary Harlow.
Hey guys, Caleb's actually busy. He couldn't do this segment, but we got Ian. So you're gonna be Gary Harlow today. You're probably gonna mess it up, but I don't care.
Yay, I'm a screw up for sure. Switzerland, being the alpine nation it is, provides quite a habitat for all kinds of strange species. The country has 18 official nature parks. Now, in these mountains, you have quite a many of mountain-adapted ungulates. Much noted are the ibex and the chamois. Thanks to their two-toed hooves, these little guys latch on to the narrowest of walls. And this makes you think, are they brave or are they just stupid? I ask myself that a lot. Unfortunately, most of the predators, like the gray wolf and the Eurasian lynx, are incredibly rare. Brown bears were actually hunted to extinction in 1904. Now, one species of predator that does thrive in Switzerland is the European asp. It's a viper, and it's well adapted to the high altitudes. Now, the bite's extremely painful. Now, unlike most countries, Switzerland doesn't have a national animal. But if you ask around, you might find out that the unofficial Swiss animal is the iconic Swiss cow, even though they're not naturally from these here mountains. All right, well, that's it for me, fellas.
This is terrible.
I'm sorry, Hannah, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Ian. Anyway, we discussed much of the industry, economy, and physical makeup. That means there's only one more part left. Food! Now, I love doing this part, but I will gracefully step down and let an actual Swiss geography take over.
Hello, we are Mara and Terence, and today we are going to talk about Swiss food.
We have to talk about cheese, of course. Thousands of varieties of them.
Probably also know the popular dishes, fondue and raclette, rösti, which is like a hash brown, Alpenmakrone, Zürichschnetzlets, Bernerplatte, Pave Vaudois, Malakoff de Winzel.
Birchenmüsli.
And desserts, was the Leckerli, Nusstorte, Zuckerkehlstorte.
I'm still working on Sweden.
Chocolate.
Yeah, although we don't have cocoa trees here.
We also invented absinthe,
which is a super strong alcohol, can give you hallucinations. Then there is also another soft drink called Rivella.
And finally, in every Swiss kitchen, mochi and automat. And like a mini automat dösli.
Right,
and,
it's from there. You can use it on.
That's it.
On some food.
I gotta try some of those desserts. All right, Barbs, back to you.
Thank you, Noah. Also, fun fact, because Switzerland is so expensive, we actually like to go shopping in other countries just because it's cheaper. There are some laws what you can bring back, like 1 kilogram of meat, 5 liters of wine, or 1 liter of strong liquor, and 1 kilogram of butter.
They actually check at the border when you drive through?
Yes.
But I mean, you guys do have good stuff. I mean, you're well known for your cheese and chocolate.
We put it on everything. You bake something in the oven, put some cheese on it. You're having sushi, why not put some raclette? Yeah, food always brings people together.
Except for that one time in Lindau with that waiter, I swear.
Seriously, dude. 4 years later and you're still traumatized.
Yes, I'm still pissed off. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's learn about demographics.
Switzerland, as we already
Paul
explained, has a lot
is so
of
mad about that.
cantons.
Yeah,
and there's
I
actually
can
kind
imagine
of
that.
a word you guys have in Switzerland. Explain, Herman.
It's Eidgenossenschaft.
What does it mean?
An oath alliance came along and formed a nation, except for Ticino, which we conquered.
Despite the fact that each of the region kind of has their own canton cultural difference, at the end of the day, they are all Swiss. Here's how you break down the populace.
First of all, the country has about 8.5 million people and often ranks in the top 3 global competitive markets and human development index scores on Earth. Ethnically speaking, things get a little complicated because Swiss censuses only take in data from factors like citizenship and place of birth. So the specific details can be a little vague, but in the broadest sense, it will say that about 75% of the country are Swiss nationals and the remaining 25% are resident foreigners, one of the highest proportions in the developed world.
Could be German, Italian, French, Austrian.
Because within both groups, everything breaks down linguistically as well. Often, Switzerland will refer to their linguistic groups for data rather than ethnic, in which case about 63% of the country are primarily German-speaking Swiss, 23% are primarily French-speaking, and somewhere around 8 to 9% are primarily Italian-speaking. Finally, less than 1% are Romansh-speaking. Keep in mind, this data can apply to anyone from anywhere that claims these languages as primaries, regardless of their ethnic background. What we do know, though, is that of the 25% foreign residents, about 64% of them are from the EU or EFTA countries, the largest being Italians, followed by Germans and Portuguese and French. There's a sizable Kosovar Albanian community, and of the Asian community, Sri Lankans, mostly of Tamil descent, make up the largest demographic.
The Swiss franc is our currency and we drive on the right side of the road.
And you guys use the J plug outlet, which I hate because there's like an inward diamond-shaped divot and my C plug adapters don't fit. Why do you guys are trying to do everything to be different from the rest of Europe? It's so weird.
Well, sometimes you introduce a standard before the rest of Europe, and then it's too late. In Switzerland, the dishwashers used to be 55 centimeters, and then Europe introduced a new standard of 60 centimeters. But the problem is, it costs more to manufacture in special size, so our dishwashers cost 3 times as much.
Yay! Anyway, Switzerland has 4 official languages: Swiss German, Swiss French, Swiss Italian, and Romansh. Even though less than 1% of the country speaks it, it's still an official language. It's actually pretty closely related to Vulgar Latin, which was spoken in the Roman Empire, and it's also a cousin of Romanian.
So most of us know 3 languages somehow.
What is the difference between Swiss German and Hochdeutsch spoken in Germany?
And Austrian German
is a very strong dialect. We have dropped, for example, the simple past tense, and the Germans don't really understand us.
Don't even get started with French Swiss as well, although I do like how they use the 90 and 80 and 70, 40 and 90.
99.
And don't even get started with Ticino Italian. In fact, you know what? Matteo can explain it.
Here you go. This guy can explain.
So Ticino Swiss sounds very much like northern Lombardy. You can't tell if it's a Swiss or not just by the pronunciation. But the Swiss have some specific words that give them up. For example, they say Natel instead of mobile phone, or they say lift instead of ascensore for saying lift. Except for this, it's just usual northern Italian speak.
Anyway, regardless of their linguistic background, they are not French Swiss or German Swiss or Italian. They're all just Swiss. For what it's worth, though, there's so much backstory with Switzerland.
For example, the Habsburg family, which ruled the Austrian-Hungarian Empire for centuries, was from Habsburg in Aargau, Switzerland. But they lost with their knights against the Swiss peasants in the Battle of Moorgarten.
See, this is kind of the interesting contrast to the otherwise neutral, peaceful image of Switzerland comes in. The brutal fighting skill of the Swiss was so well renowned throughout Europe that it actually kind of became like their biggest export.
All the rulers in Europe got Swiss mercenaries, and in the end it might be a French king fighting an Italian army, and in the end it's Swiss fighting Swiss.
That's so weird.
And then they actually decided to stop having offensive war and introduce this neutrality.
Nonetheless, you know, their neutrality has always been kind of pressured throughout the years, and it's
Switzerland
kind of
is not part of NATO or
neutrality.
European
You also
Union.
have to treat both sides of the war similar. For example, you could not trade with any of them, but we didn't do that because we didn't want to get invaded by Germany. So we traded with Germany, we traded with the Allies. In the historic context of being surrounded by the Axis powers, well, you had to stay neutral. You had to do what you had to do.
How do you deal with all this pressure trying to be neutral when the whole world is not neutral and you're surrounded by everybody? It's a tough question. But for what it's worth, Switzerland has known that neutrality has always kind of come at a cost. And this is one of the reasons why Switzerland is a conscription country.
You go to military after you're 19, once for half a year, and then every year a couple
There's
of
also
weeks
Swiss
you're
guards that
30 or 31. There's the
that
disclaimers
are
there
in
some
that are
exceptions.
in
The
Vatican
Swiss
City
military has some
protecting the
quotas of how
Pope.
many people they want. If you have some health issues, you don't have to go to the military, but you will be paying 3% of your salary to the army. And if you have ethical reasons not to go, you can also fill out a form, apply to not go to the military, but you will have to take 1.5 times as much time in something called civil service, maybe, where you do some projects for the good of the country.
So at the end of the day, somehow you have to serve Switzerland.
Yeah, and after the military service, you usually take the gun home.
Technically, Switzerland has one of the highest gun ownership populations in the world. This all kind of plays into their unique system of government. It's often said that Switzerland is in an eternal election campaign.
So we vote 3 to 4 times a year, and we also vote regional for people to get into the National Council.
So it's kind of like Switzerland focuses more on policies rather than politicians, would you say? A little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
But it's like you're very involved in everything.
Yes, we are involved, and if we don't like something, there will be a referendum.
But in Switzerland, it's relatively easy.
Yeah, some cantons have different voting systems, like voting publicly by raising hand or some weird family sort.
The head of state of Switzerland, actually, though, is the Federal Council.
And one of them is the president, but it doesn't really matter because it changes every year, and he's just one among equals.
Fun fact, Switzerland can actually deny citizenship to anybody who wants to apply for it. In fact, in 2010, there was one lady who was denied because her neighbors said she was annoying.
There's a lot of those stories, like somebody not knowing where the baker is in the village because she shops in a big store. No passport for you.
In regards to religion, like most countries in Europe, most of the people will at least culturally identify with Christianity, and in Switzerland, the case is mostly with Catholicism or Protestantism.
It used to be very important. My grandma told me her parents would not have accepted her bringing home a Catholic, but nowadays we don't really care anymore.
Now, of course, this is one source that played a role in many of the regional differences throughout Switzerland, and they also kind of have like a healthy level of regional competition. And with that, let's move on to the sports part with Art.
Sports now.
So,
sports in Switzerland go hand in hand, even on the corporate side. In fact, because the tax laws, many European and international sports federations hold their headquarters in Switzerland.
FIFA.
Domestically, though, Switzerland has some sports that they actually invented, such as Schwengen, which is played in sawdust, and the contenders wear burlap shorts. There's also Hornissen. It's a team sport. It's kind of like a mix between golf and baseball. In any case, when you live in a country with big snowy mountains, you're going to get an emphasis on, this is, I know, a total shocker, on winter sports. Skiing and mountaineering are pretty much taught from adolescence. Switzerland also invented competitive sledding. They invented the first bobsled and bobsled
in
track
1870.
in St. Moritz. Switzerland has done pretty well considering their size in both the Summer and Winter Olympics. Alpine skiing being their strongest event with 22 gold medals. On another note, auto racing was actually banned in Switzerland. They had a huge crash in 1955 that stopped it all. But the government made a little loophole exception for electric racing. And finally, we cannot end this segment without mentioning the most popular athlete. I know him, Roger Federer. He's part of the Big Three, 20 Grand Slam singles title winner, 103 ATP singles titles, two-time Olympic medalist. He has streets named after him, coins with his face. He's a model for Rolex and numerous brands. There's a lot of babies out there named after him for sure. I once got a trophy for potato sack racing, and it was a big deal. Like, my mom was proud of me. And I do not know how to end my segment.
Alright then, let's just...
Thank you,
then.
Yeah, the Swiss people
Alright then, let's
small country, they still can
talk
pack a punch
about
with a competitive side.
And we have this thing called Kantönliga, where each canton really has their own rules and does their own thing.
Talk about, okay, just in our background noises quickly. Alright then. Okay, let's talk about culture.
And remember, you can get a random Hannah shirt at geographynow.com. The culture of Switzerland cannot be easily summarized as a nation. That's because it breaks down to each canton having its distinct identity. There are lots of stereotypes for them, but here are some that you guys told us. Aargau is known for having bad drivers. Valais has the most incomprehensible accents, while Graubünden has the most beautiful one. Glarus doesn't exist. Zurich has a superiority complex, and Geneva is just a French version of Zurich. Appenzell is known for hippies and alternative medicine. Funny enough, Inner Appenzell didn't give women the right to vote until 1991, and the country as a whole till 1971. In fact, Switzerland
My dad
is known
was born in
for having many
1971.
interesting laws. For example, if you live in an apartment, you're not allowed to make distracting noises after 10 p.m. You're not allowed to cut your grass, hang your laundry, or do noisy chores on Sunday. The Swiss really seem to value their silence. The Swiss are known for the many discoveries and inventions as well, such as cellophane and aluminum foil, Velcro, the vegetable peeler, the discovery of nucleic acid and DNA, and they were co-creators of the World Wide Web. Notable contemporary icons of Swiss culture include figures like Globy, Papa Mole, Shellen Orsley, and the most famous worldwide, Heidi. They are
and
notable
also the cartoon character Pingu is also from Switzerland, but the creator of Pingu was German, so from Germany.
Even Helvetica font and its variants originated in Switzerland.
It's one of the preferred fonts that we use on
Since Pingu is one of the famous cartoons in Switzerland.
Through its films. And if you want to learn more about Switzerland's films, follow my channel, Filmography Now.
Filmography.
In any case, each canton in Switzerland has its own festivals and celebrations. You have everything from the Basler Fastnacht, where people in Basel dress up in masks and throw confetti, to Umspunenfest, held every 12 years in the town of Interlaken, where men compete to throw massive boulders. There's too many festivals, we can't go through them all. Partially because we have to move on, which means you know what's coming next. The Florida man himself, Keith. We need another hurricane.
What's up, everybody? Keith here. So today I decided to wear my bathrobe because, you know, you gotta live life comfortable. By the way, guys, you can buy a Keith shirt. Look at that design. I designed it myself. Okay, so you guys think you know Swiss music and all that stuff. You probably think of, you know, yodeling.
Yodeling is like, I mean, also heard in Austria, I guess, because the Alps.
Many experts will agree that European alpine yodeling had its roots in Switzerland dating back to the early 1500s. The technique was used by herdsmen trying to call their livestock, or communicating far distances between villages in the mountains. Many will say that the traditional national dance music of Switzerland, though, is Lander. It uses a 3/4 time signature. Quarter note gets every single beat, whatever. This style was actually adopted by many classical composers like Beethoven, Schubert. They kind of just, took it and ran with it. Okay, now let's fast forward a couple hundred years. They actually won the very first Eurovision Song Contest. Fun fact, 30 years later, they would actually win again, but with Celine Dion, even though she's Canadian. And for some reason, Tina Turner is a citizen. It has nothing to do with banks and money. Anyway, there are tons of music festivals like Street Parade festivals, the Montreux Jazz Festival, which has had such artists as Pat Metheny, Steve Moore's band. I hope to go there at some point. Goal of mine. There's even a statue of Freddie Mercury, as Queen recorded many of their top hits in a studio over there. All right, we don't have time to talk about the entire evolution of the 20th century and the 21st century of Swiss musicians and stuff like that. But however, what I will say is that if you like heavy metal bands, you should check out Celtic Frost, which is a great metal band. I hope you enjoyed my segment today. Stay Keith, everybody.
Thank you, Keith.
So something important about Switzerland is how they interact with the rest of the world.
Which brings us to the last segment.
Alright, friend zone. Okay, let's learn about the friend zone. So, and the episode will be over.
Managed to actually dodge a bullet and stay neutral throughout the last century, which was a quite difficult thing to do.
Alright, but Switzerland has a good relationship with Liechtenstein.
Went before them. Although you guys did host the European...
We'll host anything with diplomacy.
Hosted.
We'll also pay for it, but we don't join. Here's how they played out their diplomacy game.
In respect to their constitution and overall global reputation, Switzerland's foreign policy is to traditionally avoid alliances and work for humanitarian efforts that strive for world peace and prosperity. This is partially why they host more international organizations than any other country in the world, most heavily concentrated in Geneva. Nonetheless, with their intense history and background, there are some countries that Switzerland has to admit they have quite a closer link to, if at the very least culturally. No one likes to make fun of Germans more than the Swiss, but in reality these two are so heavily tied in, especially with the Baden-Württemberg state that borders Switzerland. The area around the town of Rottweil was part of the old Swiss Confederacy that was lost during the Napoleonic Wars, and today the town has an agreement of friendship with Switzerland. Overall, South Swabian Germans and German-speaking Swiss generally understand and get each other way better than, say, a Berliner German. In that regard, Austria has traditionally been one of their biggest rivals in things like sports and outclassing each other with things like classical music, architecture, and general welfare. They both admire each other's systems of operation, and many Swiss will say that Austrians probably get them way better than the Germans. Otherwise, France pretty much has the oldest diplomatic exchange when they signed the Treaty of Perpetual Peace in 1516, and the first Swiss ambassador abroad was hosted in Paris in 1798. Today, France hosts more Swiss people in diaspora than any other country in the world at nearly 250,000, and they appreciate each other's, shall we say, bougie standards. On the other hand, Italians, mostly Lombards, have been rapidly moving into Switzerland, mostly in the Ticino canton, and are really taking advantage of that Italian-speaking official status. The Vatican City to this day still hires Swiss guards to stand at the palace, a tradition that has been going on since 1506, one of the oldest military units continuously in operation in the world. They still dress in traditional Renaissance uniforms and are actually trained in combat and small arms. It's not just for show. When it comes to their best friends, though, most Swiss will tell you, oh, we're neutral, we can't say we have a best friend. But after you get them a little tipsy and ask them one more time, they might make a Freudian slip and say, Little Liechtenstein. Switzerland and Little Liechtenstein go hand in hand. They are irrefutably inseparable. Liechtenstein is basically Switzerland's adorable little baby sibling about 200 years younger. They not only share currencies and speak almost the exact same German dialect, they have a customs union, open borders, and the same stance on armed neutrality, but Switzerland also agrees to protect them if anything happens, represent them in any international treaty negotiations or abroad if they are unable to, and even when Switzerland makes mistakes and does things like accidentally firing an artillery shell at a ski resort in 1968, or accidentally invades them because the soldiers couldn't read maps, Liechtenstein is just happy to see them and offers them drinks upon arrival.
All right, and in conclusion, Herman, take it away, you're the Swiss guy, I'm out.
Switzerland is a beautiful country where it's really nice to live and enjoy a nice and peaceful life. Or have a nice vacation if you bring the necessary cash.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Herman, for being in this video. It was so fun filming with you. I can't believe I flew out here to just see you. Stay tuned. Syria.
Goodbye.